beautiful game. You probably picture romance, passion, and those incredible moments on the pitch, right? But beneath the roaring crowds and the dazzling goals, there's a deeply cynical reality. In this explainer, we're peeling back the curtain on a massive, highly unregulated market that quietly drives the sport. We're going to examine how an intricate financial machine exploits absolutely everything, from 11-year-old kids playing in local parks all the way up to the highest levels of global geopolitics. Think about the really devoted fans for a second. A single supporter might spend, say, €600 a season just to follow their club through tickets, TV subscriptions, merchandise, the whole shebang. But we've got to ask ourselves, who is actually pocketing those profits? We need to look beyond the players on the field and figure out who is really pulling the strings off the pitch. The global turnover of soccer, it's a staggering $400 billion. And as you'll see, in less than 15 years, it's morphed into one of the most deregulated markets on the entire planet. Welcome to our explainer on exactly how this financial machine operates. We're going to climb what you might call the pyramid of greed, starting right down at the grassroots level and working our way all the way up to the global stage. Level 1, the children. The foundation of this entire pyramid starts with kids like Madden. He's an 11-year-old French prodigy with 20 million internet views, whose childhood is already being circled by sponsors and massive global clubs. Take FC Barcelona's famous La Masia Academy. It basically acts as a highly lucrative industrial secret for the club. They recruit players as young as 8 to shape them in the club's image. Michel Zamora, a French talent scout for Barcelona, literally described himself by saying, "I'm like Father Christmas." But, the reality of commodifying these children is far less generous than that quote suggests. And spoiler alert, the biggest presents aren't going to the kids. Let's actually break down the exact return on investment using Barcelona's own math. This really shows why clubs recruit so young. If a club trains a player, they earn 90,000 euros in compensation per year of training when that player eventually signs elsewhere. So do the math. If a player enters at 12 and signs with another club at 17, Barcelona nets 450,000 euros. Plus, the training club gets up to a 5% cut of all future transfers over that player's entire career. For example, when former Barca youth player Thiago Motta moved between clubs like Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan, and PSG, Barcelona quietly collected over 710,000 euros in residual payouts. It's a goldmine. And guess what? The agents are getting in on the ground floor too. In Modden's case, a Dubai businessman who literally made his fortune selling construction cranes stepped in to act as his agent. Now, French law strictly forbids agents from making money off underage players. So what did this businessman do? He just exploited a legal vacuum in Spain. He locked 11-year-old Modden into a 2-year contract that guarantees his company a 10% commission if Modden signs in Spain and a massive 20% commission anywhere else. Level 2, players as financial products. Moving up the pyramid, we enter a totally dystopian reality called third-party ownership, where unregulated investment funds trade human beings exactly like Wall Street stocks. It is honestly incredibly jarring to see human ownership broken down into a pie chart. Take 22-year-old French international Eliaka Mangala. He was bought by the Portuguese club FC Porto, but when Porto lost a crucial Champions League match, their stock value tanked and they needed an urgent cash injection. Their solution? They literally fractionalized their player. They sold off a third of Mangala's financial rights just to stay afloat. Mangala literally woke up to read on the internet that he had been carved up and sold. And just look at the absolute absurdity of Mangala's new owners. A third of him, 33.33%, was bought by the Doyen Group, which is an investment fund whose primary business is extracting uranium, coal, and gold. Another 10% was granted to a shell company called Robbie Plus. And who was behind Robbie Plus? Luciano Donofrio, an agent who was criminally convicted and officially banned from operating by FIFA. Because he couldn't legally take an agent's commission, the club secretly gave his company a 10% ownership stake just to pocket a 650,000 euro payout. Level 3, ghost transfers and tax scams. This is the level where entire clubs use fake paperwork to systematically dodge taxes and hide their wealth. Let me walk you through the Carlos Sanchez scam step by step. Sanchez was a Colombian star playing for the French club Valenciennes. Step 1. When his contract ended, he supposedly signed with the Talca Rangers. That's a club in Chile that he later admitted he never even visited. Step 2. He was instantly loaned right back to Valenciennes. In fact, he signed the loan documents in France 9 days before he was officially supposed to be back in Europe. So why the elaborate charade? Well, by structuring his return as a loan from a foreign club, Valenciennes dropped Sanchez's on-books monthly salary from 75,000 euros down to just 14,700 euros. This phantom transfer let the French club drastically cut their payroll and evade a massive 41% in social security tax contributions. It was all smoke and mirrors. Level 4. The gods of FIFA. Now we're zooming out to the absolute top of the pyramid, an executive committee of 24 men who operate entirely above the law. To really grasp the culture here, you have to look at Chuck Blazer, the former head of North American football. The guy lived a mafia-like existence entirely on the Federation's dime. He lived in a luxury Trump Tower apartment and, get this, famously rented an adjoining apartment for $5,500 a month just for his cats. He maintained a fleet of mobility scooters, and whenever the committee met in Zurich, he would systematically pick up envelopes stuffed with $20,000 in cash, just for quote-unquote expenses. This kind of elite impunity fostered systematic bribery across the board. Swiss justice authorities actually uncovered that a marketing company called ISL transferred millions in bribes to FIFA officials to secure World Cup TV rights. This included a 1.5 million euro payoff to FIFA's honorary president, João Havelange. But thanks to a legal vacuum in Switzerland at the time, FIFA essentially just paid off the Swiss authorities to stop their inquiries, allowing the top brass to carry on completely untouched. Level 5. Buying the World Cup. Here we reach the geopolitical peak of the sport, where entire nations vie for the ultimate prize. The transactions used to secure votes were just incredibly blatant. During a meeting in Angola, a representative backing the Qatar bid offered a flat $1.5 million cash bribe to 3 African Football Union members in exchange for their votes. In Oceania, undercover reporters discovered that $10 to $12 million was being discussed to secure their sole representative's vote. No subtlety whatsoever. But this went far beyond cash envelopes. It reached the absolute highest levels of government. According to the source documents, the timeline unfolds exactly like this. In 2010, an elite lunch took place at the Élysée Palace in France. Present were French President Nicolas Sarkozy, UFA's Michel Platini, who held a crucial vote, and the Emir of Qatar. Following that lunch, Platini voted for Qatar. In December 2010, Qatar won the bid. By 2011, Qatari entities had purchased the French football club Paris Saint-Germain, along with a fleet of Airbus jets and Rafale fighter planes, and invested heavily in French infrastructure. An absolutely massive geopolitical trade. And finally, the collapse. Because a house of cards built on greed is inherently unstable. The cartel was finally broken by the FBI, and their prime target was our cat-loving friend Chuck Blazer. Blazer had been pocketing millions, but incredibly, he'd never bothered to pay his taxes. Facing the rest of his life in prison under organized crime laws, Blazer flipped. The FBI actually outfitted him with a covert microphone hidden inside a little key fob. During the 2012 London Olympics, Blazer invited his fellow FIFA executives to these expensive dinners, quietly placed his key fob right on the table, recorded everything, and basically handed the entire corrupt structure over to the authorities. The fallout was explosive. It led to dawn raids at luxury Swiss hotels and the arrest of the game's most powerful men. So think about it. We've traced the money from the exploitation of 11-year-old children on local pitches, to players carved up by uranium funds, to ghost transfers, and finally to the geopolitical buying of the World Cup itself. It leaves us with one absolutely crucial provocative thought. If this $400 billion game is rigged at absolutely every single level of the pyramid, who are you really cheering for?